this is Mrs. Shoulders room. This is where she keeps her dead creatures. And this is the map from where we look for where the things are. This is the props that when we act out from reading the fiction paper. This is the campfire where we read a story. This is the feather stick where people give Mrs. Shoulders feathers. This is the bone stick and there's an owl feather in it. There's more feathers. This is the tail stick where there's different tails. This is the magic tree house where we read the book. Jack and Annie Magic Tree House.
Okay. Hello, Mrs. Masterson. This is Mrs. Shoulders, and you just met Quentin. And we're going to do the shared reading lesson for week 2. And we'll start off by I chose Quentin. He comes to Title 1 because his weakness is word recognition, but his strength is comprehension. And we're getting him ready for the 3rd grade year, and I thought extra practice in word recognition and word work would be beneficial for Quentin. So we're going to start off, Quentin, and I'm going to show you. I had asked you in the hall this week what would be interesting to you, and you told me chimpanzees. So have you ever heard of Jane Goodall? Have you ever heard of her? Well, I'm happy to introduce you to a lovely woman. In 2004, when I was about 22, she, Jane Goodall, came to the College of Worcester, and she spoke to the community of Worcester, and I got to hear her speak. And you're going to learn all about Jane Goodall and her research with chimpanzees. She has devoted her entire life to chimpanzees. So we're going to read this Reading A to Z book, Level I, about Jane Goodall. And I'm going to shut the lights off real quick so you can see the book up close. And I'm going to do just a picture walk through
Mrs. Shoulders, I heard like that it was monkeys that turned into man, like stuff.
Okay, you've heard of that? Okay, there's many different theories about that. Okay, here's Jane Goodall in her younger years. And this is the table of contents. And she starts out, she was born in England in 1934. And she loved to watch chickens and animals on the farm. And here's her dog. And she met up with this doctor called Dr. Leakey. She was really interested in chimpanzees. And she traveled to Tanzania. Now when I went on my first safari, when I was 23, I actually traveled to this continent, Africa, and this country of Tanzania. I did a safari there and I saw about 50 different types of species. And yes, we did see chimpanzees there, just like Jane.
I think those are the most smartest creatures.
You're gonna find out that they're so smart that they use tools
Yeah.
to find ants and food.
And
And they use the sticks for the tools, yes. And this was a huge finding for mankind to know that this species would use in nature long blades of grass to catch and eat termites, that they're using, just like humans, tools to eat food. This was huge, and it was because Jane spent her entire life, she would spend months and months, watching and observing and living with chimps. And she then became a conservationist and humanitarian, and that she wanted to protect these chimps. Hunters would come and steal the chimps. As you know, a lot of animals are under attack, like elephants, and a lot of animals are, being watched because they're kind of on lists for being wiped out, to be extinct. They're in danger.
Oh, that eagle thing that I told you, they figured out that another country, they found one in Volvo, they figured out that another country should
Oh, that is our national bird, the eagle. So she is, to this day, still helping and supporting chimpanzees. Now, I have a little YouTube that I wanted to share with you. It summarized all about Jane Goodall, and it was really good. So I have it right here. Okay, here we go.
1960. 26-year-old Jane Goodall arrives on the shores of Gombe Stream Game Reserve on the coast of what is now Tanzania.
When I looked at the wild and rugged mountains where the chimpanzees lived, I knew that my task was not going to be easy.
She had been sent by renowned anthropologist Dr. Louis Leakey, who then approached the National Geographic Society about supporting Jane's work. She has no field experience or college degree. What she has is determination to observe chimpanzees with a mind uncluttered by conventional scientific methods.
When I first came to Gombe to study chimpanzees, I knew nothing about them. Nobody really knew very much about them.
She also has the courage to spend months in a remote, even dangerous place, getting closer to wild chimps than anyone before her. Within weeks, she is making astonishing discoveries. Chimps will hunt down large mammals and eat them. And more shocking, they not only use tools, but make them as well.
A chimpanzee is actually modifying a natural object to suit it to a specific purpose, thus making a tool.
When Louis Leakey first heard about tool using in Gombe, he got extremely excited and said, now we have to redefine man, redefine tool, or include chimpanzees with humans.
These discoveries, caught on film, sent National Geographic into a flurry of coverage. In the next 5 years, National Geographic presents Jane's first film and many articles in the magazine. Jane becomes a star. She and her beloved chimps, David Graybeard, Flo, and Flint, become known worldwide. and Jane redefines science, adding an emotional component.
It's perfectly possible to be incredibly emotionally involved, feeling great empathy for your subject.
It's what would drive Jane to learn as much about chimps as anyone in the world, to find out how alike we really are.
During the very early years, I thought how like people they were, but they seemed to be much more gentle, much nicer. But then it became more and more apparent that chimpanzees, like humans, have a dark side to their nature.
She witnesses a war between chimpanzees that lasts 4 years. Decades deep in her study, Jane discovers that the chimp populations are under threat from the outside. By the 1980s, they are an endangered species. Jane realizes she can best save these creatures by leaving Gombe, to speak to the world face to face about the importance of protecting these chimps.
If we just sit back and allow the chimpanzees here and everywhere else to become extinct, it'll be an enormous black mark on us as a species. As we destroy the natural world, we end up with a situation where the people are suffering. So there has to be a way of creating a balance between humans and the natural world.
Gombe has since become a national reserve, and Jane's sights are set on the future. She has launched conservation projects, humanitarian work. The Jane Goodall Institute is promoting a new generation of conservationists and helping to mentor a new generation of chimp researchers.
And I'm going to do everything I can to cheer them on, because that, I think, is the only hope.
50 years later, Jane has witnessed the lives of 3 generations of chimpanzees. The dream that Jane Goodall set in motion lives on, and her partnership with National Geographic continues. The October issue of National Geographic magazine features...
Okay. What do you think of that, Quentin? Pretty cool? Okay, well, what we're going to do now is... Okay. Well, I know you heard some of these words. We're going to read the book that Jane Goodall, looks like this, and it's also on the iPad. And I'm going to, we're going to go through these words, and I want to put this over here. Let me highlight in yellow. And I'm going to see, what do you think this word, let's look at the words. It was mentioned. Can you read that word? Yeah, Africa. And the Africa is the setting of where this story takes place. It's the second largest continent in the world, located south of Europe. So, Quentin, go ahead, take this stick and go point. Show me on the map where Africa is.
It's hard to find things.
In relation to Ohio.
It's hard to find things on the map.
That's why we always go to it. Okay, so where's Ohio? Here. Okay. So Africa is, if you take a plane, you go all the way. Right there is Tanzania. Tanzania, Africa. That's where we're at. Okay? Good job. Okay. Now, let's look over there. This is a compound word. Can you read read that first part of the word?
I can't read.
Just look at the word.
Behave.
Looks like it could be behave. Have you ever heard of behave? Be long A.
Behave.
Behave. Yes. Have a seat, bud. To act in a certain way. And so Jane was. Have a seat. Jane was watching to behave and act a certain way. She was watching the behavior to behave of these chimpanzees. Okay, how about this word that we're going to see? CH. Up here.
Chimpanzees.
Yes, they are mid-sized great apes that live in Africa and spend their time on the ground and in the trees. Chimpanzees. Look at the T, E in the ch. And very good. Okay, how about this word? A person who studies one or more fields of science. That would be called a, and you know what? It looks like it should be SC, but it's actually, C is silent. S-I-N-T-I-S. This is scientist. She's a scientist because she studied chimpanzees. Okay? How about this word? We do this all the time in my class. A careful scientific examination or analysis of something. What is this word? Study. You do that with your spelling words, and you do that with your other math and reading. We study reading words. And the last word, you said this before. Objects or devices that make a job or task easier. And what tools do the chimpanzees use?
Sticks.
You got it. You got it. Got it. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice the skill. Overall, there are many goals this lesson offers. And the first goal is for you to read a text that's pretty rigorous and for you to answer comprehension questions from the text, like what we do in my class all the time. And we also are going to, the words are going to help you with your fluency, and we're going to do other reading strategies such as visualizing. I'm going to read the text to you first, and then you're going to try to visualize by writing, drawing a picture of what I read. Can we turn the lights on, or can you see? You can see, because this is pretty bright. Yes.
In the Ice Age movie, the last one, that the one Slav's son, he's burning an anthill with something, and then he said, "Ammo," for some reason, because the grandma's doing the same thing on him.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna read the text to you, and you can follow it right here with me. And then I'm gonna read, and then we're gonna draw. You're gonna draw what I read. So first you're gonna just sort of look at the words and watch me read the words, because hopefully we'll have time for you to start reading. So the first chapter is called The Watcher. The Watcher. The second is Off to Africa. Third is Into the Forest. Fifth is The Gombe Gang. Fourth, and then the fifth is Trouble in the Forest. The sixth is Jane Goodall Today. And I like to give all this credit to reading A to Z. Okay, so The Watcher. Now you just follow my cursor here as I read, okay? But you can look on the iPad, you can look up here. And I want to have you draw what this is called The Watcher. And you're getting your brain used to the words for the first time, so any words I'm kind of helping you out with, but then you're going to end up reading it too. Okay. As a young girl, Jane Goodall loved to watch animals and read stories about them. She dreamed of living in Africa one day and writing stories about wild animals. And down here, Jane Goodall was born in England in 1934. At that time, most young girls grew up to live quiet lives at home. So, go ahead, take the pencil. Okay, and you're going to draw kind of like what this page was about. You're going to visualize what I read and draw one picture representing that page, the Watcher. What does the Watcher, what did it say that she did? Yeah, and she loved to watch and read stories about them. She loved to watch animals. So what could you draw? Picture of who? Jane watching animals. So just go ahead and draw in that first box a picture. It didn't say exactly what animals, but she loved to watch animals. So she probably watched cats. I know she watched roosters. I read in another book she watched chickens. So you can draw a picture of her watching a chicken. But you're fine. Okay. Okay, as you can see in the next box, it says, "Off to Africa. Watch me as I read." Okay. It says, "Young Jane with her dog, Rusty. Jane loved to play with her pets, climb trees, and read. She wanted a life of travel and adventure." Oh, I can relate to that. "Off to Africa." Here she goes. Okay, now visualize the words and make a movie in your mind. When she was old enough, Jane worked and saved her money. When she had saved enough, she went on a trip to Africa. In Africa, Jane met Dr. Louis Leakey, a famous scientist. Okay, so what could you draw?
Like a plane going to Africa.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I don't know how to build.
You could just draw, you see the shape of it? You could just kind of draw the shape of the outline of Africa. Yeah. Yep, and over here is Tanzania right there. Yep. Good job. And you can draw a little picture of her in the plane. And how could you draw Dr. Leakey, like in Africa? Just draw a picture of him there waiting for her. All right. When Jane met Dr. Leakey, he needed help with an important new animal study. The study would look at how chimpanzees behave. Dr. Leakey, to the EA, there the EA, the E, asked Jane to work on the chimpanzee study with him. Part of Jane's work was to watch and report on what the chimps did during their normal day. Okay, and now we're into the forest. All right, so into the forest. So she's already there. She's in Tanzania. She's at Gombe Forest Reserve. To work on the study, Jane and her mother moved to the country of Tanzania. They pronounce it Tanzania. They lived with chimpanzees in the Gombe Forest. See the pronunciation key? Gombe Forest. Okay, so what could you draw from into the forest as you're visualizing? What did Jane do? She and her mother, they lived with the chimpanzees. Oh my gosh, she's living with the chimpanzees. You could have her what? Draw a picture of. Yes, she and her mother. The last box is for us to choose, let's say this chapter, the Gombe Gang. Okay, why don't you write that, the Gombe Gang, right there in the top of that. Most of the chimps in Gombe were afraid of Jane. Only a chimp she had named David trusted her. He let Jane meet his family group. Jane watched the chimps from far away until they began to trust her. Look how young she is. Jane named and watched each chimp in every chimp family. She watched how families behaved together as well as with other family groups. Jane wrote notes as she watched the chimps every day. Her notes upset many scientists. They had their own beliefs and ideas about how chimps behaved. So what do you visualize when you listen to me read about this page and that page? Who was at the Gombe Gang? Who is she referring to? Yeah, the chimps that the one she named David, and then she named all the chimps. So you could draw a picture of her looking at David, watching, gaining trust. Okay? Jane said chimps were smart. She said they use sticks as tools to dig up bugs to eat. She also said chimps showed feelings as humans do. A chimp uses a long blade of grass as a spoon to catch and eat termites. Jane saw chimps that were happy, sad, and angry. Remember on the video? I lost her temper. She saw that each chimp behaved in its own way, just as humans do. Jane's study said that each chimp had its own feelings and ways of doing things. Jane's work made some scientists think again about their old beliefs and ideas about chimps. They saw that some of their old ideas might be wrong. Some scientists agree with Jane. Jane and her husband and their son, their pictures and movies of the chimps were seen all over the world. Trouble in the forest. A mother chimpanzee protects her baby in the Gombe Forest, Tanzania. That baby right there. After many years in Gombe, Jane became very worried. People were cutting down trees in the Gombe Forest. Hunters were stealing baby chimps. Jane knew what she had to do. She talked about her work with many people all around the world. She asked them to help to save the chimps in the forest. Jane Goodall today. People trusted Jane and helped to support her work in Gombe. Today, over 50 years later, she still works to protect the forest and the chimpanzees from harm. Jane Goodall's patient, caring work has uncovered important new information that she has shared with the world. Okay, so now we're going to see if you, Quentin, it's your turn to read a few, maybe if you have time, see if you can read the whole story. Can you read these words?
Africa,
It's a D, it's a B. What's that word again? All right, Quentin. Okay, I'm going to turn the light on. And we're going to get on the iPad right in front of you. Okay. Okay. So, here you go. We did your visualizing. We went over the vocabulary words. So let's go ahead and start. Now, what do you think the author's purpose? The author